A very warm and welcome to all of you and to our new teachers in particular, and a warm welcome to our very first webinar for our new teacher induction program, where this afternoon we welcoming new teachers who've joined the webinar, and to our speakers and our colleagues that are supporting us technically. Welcome to this lovely and exciting opportunity for us to speak with new teachers and to specifically focus on the issues of resilience and teacher well-being, particularly as new teachers in the field. And colleagues, before we want to continue with that, we just want to give you some technical information before we continue. Safe to say that we're really excited that you've made time after a really busy school day to join us in this reflective space. And as the Department of Basic Education, we acknowledge that whilst learners, form the center of the teaching and learning experience, it is critical for us to also create a reflective space for yourselves so that we can also help you to reflect on what is important and the range of skills and support systems you need to be able to manage through your day, manage with all the complexities that coalesce within a classroom, within your school environment, and that shape what you bring to the teaching and learning experience so that you can be the very best that you can be. And we're going to, we have the great fortune to be joined by two speakers, Renuka and Sedi, whom we'll get to know a little more about later on. Our first speaker is Renuka Rautela, and she's based all the way in India and joining us from there. And then we have Sedi Mantoko, who's joining us as the second speaker. We also have a question and answer session. So please, if you have any questions for either of the speakers, please put them down in the Q&A section so that our moderators can keep an eye on them and our facilitators can also respond to them as the other sessions are going on. Just something for you, please, that we'll appreciate is that we will then have a survey that we will put up at the end of the webinar. So when the webinar closes, a link will appear. Please don't shut down. Instead, we'll then ask you to complete the survey because those details are needed for you to get your CPTD points. As a contingency, I think you can also keep an eye out for a link that could be sent to you on an email. So just some of the technical things for us to remember during the webinar is that our cameras and microphones will be off during the call. Again, please use the Q&A session or section if you have any questions or comments that you'd like to post. And then also is that we are recording this webinar so that it can become available to you later on, either by us sending it to you or you're accessing it to this. So colleagues, let's go to our first speaker for this afternoon. And we'd like to welcome Renuka Rautela, who has a wonderful range of experience. So hello, Renuka.
Hi, Anita.
What time of the day is it there for you?
Oh, it's 5:30 in the evening.
Ah,
Few
okay,
hours
so you're
ahead
ahead of
you.
us. Well,
Yeah.
well, welcome, Renuka, and thank you very much for joining us. And colleagues, Renuka brings to us a wonderful range of experience in education with her master's degree in education and physics. And she's a very experienced educator who's made contributions both in terms of the formal and informal education sector, as an associate national project officer at UNESCO MGIEP. She also designs and implements large-scale hybrid programs, empowering teachers and students in social and emotional learning and global citizenship. And her expertise lies in the use of technology as a transformative tool for learning. So hopefully she'll be able to connect with your own experience and you with hers. She's also excelled as a high school educator in India, and she's very successfully merged STEM education and social emotional learning. And obviously this is a whole new arena we ourselves are moving into in South Africa. So she's been able through this experience to introduce innovative pedagogy, learning methods, assessments, and training. And Renuka, we really appreciate your time today. And thank you so much for the generosity of all that you're going to share with us. And we really look forward to it. So over to you.
Thanks a lot, Anita, for that wonderful introduction. And good evening, everyone in the room. I really look forward for this amazing interaction that we'll have in the next couple of minutes. And I think as I move forward, in the spirit of social emotional learning, I also want to acknowledge right now that I do feel a little nervous being here with all of you. And I think a lot of it has to do with kind of opening up to the NTI. The weight of this amazing vision kind of feels on my shoulders. And at the same time, I'm also excited to be present with all of you here to share something that's so close to my heart and has been part of my professional journey for the last few years. So the slides are here for us. And before we kind of jump into it, I want you to spend a few seconds on this slide and particularly focusing on the bold headlines for you. So it says, put on your oxygen mask before assisting others. And I want you to bring to mind a time of your life where you might have heard something like that. Where was it that you heard something similar? So if you've taken a flight before, or maybe watched a movie that was showcasing an airplane, then you might have noticed that the air hostess gives a wide range of important instructions as you board the plane, right? And among the many things, important things that they end up telling you, they also kind of say that in case the pressure in the cabin drops down, then the oxygen masks are going to fall, and put on your oxygen mask before you assist anybody else who's next to you. So your own children, your parents, your family, your friends, people you don't know. But before that, you want to assist yourself and put on the oxygen mask. And the reason is pretty simple. Your brain, your mind, your body functions the best when it has that supply of oxygen, because that helps you to think clearly, think calmly, and do the many other things that are expected from you in the case of an emergency, right? And using the same analogy today, I'm inviting you to think yourself and your oxygen mask. As teachers in the profession and as practitioners in the profession, there are going to be thousands and gazillions of things that would be part of your platter. And as you receive them and as you participate in them, there are also going to be a lot of other stresses and anxiety that might come on your way. So as you go on to pledge to serve the many children that you want to impact, it's equally important for you to take your oxygen mask and take care of your own self, particularly in the realm of emotional and mental health, which is kind of the spirit of today's session. So with that, I invite you for a little exploration of what it might look like if you were wearing an oxygen mask today. So maybe going to the next slide, what we're going to do right now in the next 2 minutes is that we're going to take some time to connect to ourselves. So it is Monday, it is the first day of the week, and you've just completed school. So it's kind of likely that there's still a lot of mental talks in your head, prepping you for the week ahead. So let's take a moment of silence to calm ourselves and to connect with the true human being behind this body. So what I want you to do right now is, if you can, then follow my voice. I'll give you a very simple set of instructions. Feel free to do what is comfortable and let go of what does not seem to be. So wherever you are, I want you to take a comfortable and relaxed posture. Set up your body, see if there are any parts of your body that don't feel okay. Just try to comfort them and relax. And if it feels okay, then maybe close your eyes. If it does not feel okay, you may open them. And what we're going to do together is that we're going to take 3 deep inhalations and 3 deep exhalations. So when we breathe, inhale and out, I want you to put maybe your right hand, if you can see me, on your chest, and maybe your left hand on your abdomen, or vice versa. And when I say deep breathing in, it means that you should be able to feel your hands rising. So your chest rising and abdomen rising. So let's try to do that together. Let's take a deep breath in, inhaling through the nose. Fill your abdomen with the revitalizing oxygen. And then let's exhale out completely through our mouth. Let's inhale once again. And exhale out. Feel the rise and fall of your chest and abdomen. And let's take one breath in again. And out. And now letting your breath attain its natural pace of breathing, I want you to think of, and we're moving to the next slide, I want you to think about one moment and one moment of joy from last week. So look back to the last week and find that little moment of joy for yourself, whatever that is, right? It could be like a child coming to you and saying a thank you, or maybe a good time that you had with your family over the weekend. Whatever it is, just that one moment of joy. And I want you to paint the image. I want you to make it as vivid as possible with colors and with sounds, with aromas. Activate your senses and imagine that scene. So if it's in the class, maybe the blackboard, the chairs, your class, the different things on the walls, the child standing next to you and saying that thank you. So whatever that is, let's bring to that mind. And as you bring this to your memory and as you paint this picture more clearly, we move to the next slide where I want you to focus on your own body. So as you think about this moment of joy, how does your body feel? How does your mind feel? What are the different emotions you're feeling? Any thoughts that are coming in your mind as you think about this moment of joy? And let's stay with these comforting feelings and thoughts for a few more seconds. And whenever you're ready, you can join us back on the session. So most likely when you were thinking about this moment of joy, and if you could read into your body, you would have felt some really comforting sensations, some really comforting emotions and thoughts. And that's the state that we often want to be in, right? That's the state of clarity that we want to be in. And maybe moving on to the next slide. Yeah. So that's the state that we would like to be, and that's what an oxygen mask would feel like. But unfortunately, in the everyday teacher profession that we are all in, that doesn't happen most of the times. There are so many other things that take up our mental space, which, and a lot of it does not necessarily have to be with teaching. A lot of it could also be administrative in nature. But whatever that is, our average teacher life is much more hectic, much more stressful, much more challenging. Right, and I want you to particularly focus on the third part of the picture, where we are focusing a lot on South Africa. Of course, there's a lot of evidence and studies which indicate that teacher profession is the most challenging profession in the world. But particularly to South Africa, if I can drive your attention to that, a lot of existing research also indicates that teachers in South Africa, through the perception data that has been collected, feel really stressful. They feel answered up. They feel that most part of the day they're not able to function effectively. There's also a high attrition rate, which means that a lot of new teachers, young teachers, or maybe people who've been in the profession are leaving their jobs to do something else. There is low morale, there is low motivation to be in the field. And there can be many things that are contributing to it. Of course, the research has been cited here, and I would urge you to also look at that. But the bottom of the line is, because this is the kind of our life that we have, most of us have in the profession, the stress also has implications on our mind and body. And maybe let's look to the next slide. Without going into the gory details of this, what I want you to really think about is that this is what's happening to your body under stress. So maybe particularly focusing on the blue section of the picture. So our brain, our human brain, there's a particular part of the brain which is the autonomic nervous system, and that's the part of the brain which registers safety and danger. So every time that you feel stressed out in your profession or in your life, this is what's going to happen to you. So your brain signals the rest of all your important organs, which I'm talking about the heart, the lung, the pancreas, the intestines, the stomach, all of them to behave very differently. And the behavior that we're talking about is that the digestion gets low, your heart rate, you feel like there's a palpitation. It's like it's increased. It feels uncomfortable, right? There's your body is functioning in a way so that there's adrenaline rush, there's glucose rush, which again hampers the effective functioning of the body. Now, feeling stress is okay, but what we're also trying to say is that in the profession, there will be so many other moments where stress becomes almost like a chronic thing. And when it becomes chronic, your body almost functions in a way where it's not functioning effectively. So you feel that your digestion goes down with time, you feel all the time anxious, your body functionality overall, the way it should feel function, especially with the hormonal balance, is an imbalance there. So that's what's happening to your body under stress. And that's where we don't want to be. We want it to be in a place where even if we're experiencing stress, we're able to navigate and regulate it effectively. And maybe moving on to the next slide, what we also see that the worst part about stress is that it's like a contagious disease. So just like COVID kind of went all the way to everyone, stress is also contagious. So when you step into the class feeling that stress, even when you're not articulating it as stress, the rest of your students, the rest of your class is going to read that. And this is a concept which is often called as the mirror neuron concept, when you start mirroring the person who's right in front of you, and especially when a teacher, a person of more authority. So what we're trying to say is that students will feel more stressed, students' performance, academic performances goes low, and there are a lot of behavioral challenges that we might start noticing in our classroom, which are all the things that we don't want in our classroom spaces. So what we're really urging you to, and maybe in the next slide we see that you need to kind of figure out your oxygen mask. And the oxygen mask here is not just the oxygen mask, but the oxygen mask that we are trying to symbolize here is the social and emotional learning. Teachers need training in social and emotional learning. And when I say social and emotional learning, maybe looking at the next slide, maybe quickly summarizing that for you. SEL or social emotional learning means all the learning that allows us to be empathic, compassionate, critical thinkers, problem solvers, all the abilities that help us bring on some beautiful relationships in the world, solve world challenges, be an active citizen of the world is in the realm of social and emotional learning. So what we are really urging you here is that when you think about being in the classroom available for your children, take a moment to think back and see, are you available for yourself? So work on your own mental and emotional health, wear on your oxygen mask of SEL before you step into that space. And of course, there are many tools that can help us become a more socially and emotionally aware human being. One such that we practiced in the beginning of the session, which was just a little bit of breath work and doing a little bit of guided visual imagery where we imagine a moment of joy. But there are so many other ways in which you can also explore that. And hopefully in your journey of educators, you will come across many such programs, many such opportunities and self-discoveries that will allow you to do that. And maybe with that, we can go to the next slide. So this is generally what happens to when teachers are trained in SEL. So if you are trained in SEL, so clearly you can have a bunch of things that work well for you. You have great stress response mechanism. You feel less burnt out. You feel that you want to go to school. You feel that you want to work. You will notice that automatically challenges in your classroom will go down, and there'll be better relationships with your students, academic success and learnability will increase. And with that, I just want to quickly help you see that there are many interventions, as I said, in social and emotional learning, and one such at UNESCO MGIEP that we provide, which we can see in the next slide, which is the SEL Educator, a primer program. And I can share more about this in the Q&A if you have some questions around this, but this is a program that we have designed, which focuses a lot on how do we take care of ourselves as teachers and what are some tools and practices that I can put in my everyday daily routine so that I can become a more aware, a more prepared educator, and I can have a better stress response mechanism. And a part of the program also supports you to then take those tools into your classroom spaces. And with that, I'm going to quickly invite you to do a little closing check-in with me. So, as I said, there are various ways in which you can connect to yourself, and one such way are going to be these wonderful, cute cats. So, let's just check in with ourselves how we're doing, and maybe if we can launch the poll right now. Thank you. So, be honest to yourselves. Remember that in this, all emotions, all thoughts are welcomed. So, how are you doing today? Are you feeling bored? Are you feeling focused? Is it a lot of information and overloaded? Or are you feeling comfortable? Lovely to know that a lot of us feel comfortable and overloaded as well. Perfectly all right to be there. Focus, great going, everyone. So, with that, maybe Anita, I'll invite you in.
Thank you, Renuka. And I didn't get a chance to answer the quiz, and I'm feeling really comfortable now. Thank you very, very much for providing us with those options of the oxygen masks, and most importantly, just helping us to be able to decompress and to reflect. So thank you so much for that. And also just looking at our own abilities to start to draw on our own social emotional learning. So thank you very much for that. Colleagues, again, a reminder that if you have any questions or comments, please feel welcome to write them in the Q&A section so that we can then provide you with the response. So colleague, moving from, at least a first set of tools that Renuka shared with us, we're going to move to our next speaker, who's Sedi Mantoko. And she has a wealth of coaching experience. She's the visionary founder and CEO of a very aptly named organization called Utopia. And she brings experience from the corporate landscape in our country. She's a certified Comensa coach. She specializes in fostering emotional intelligence, creating harmonious interactions, promoting personal growth. And she has a very profound understanding of neuro-linguistic program coaching, which enables her then to guide individuals like ourselves towards becoming more resourceful and developing empathy. She's dynamic, and she's a dynamic thought leader. She's a sought after speaker, and she ignites audiences with very empowering talks on emotional intelligence and leadership and diversity. And she's committed in our space to, unlocking the potential of young people and young professionals like yourselves, and inspiring you as new teachers in terms of the positive change that you can help to enrich your teaching and working experience. And so thank you very much, Zedi, for joining us today. And we look forward to see how you can then augment our oxygen mask tools with what you have to share with us today. So we're excited to learn from you. Over to you, Zedi.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Anita, for that wonderful welcome. And really, Renuka, thank you so much for your part. I was really very motivated, very inspired as I was listening to that. And I see that I too have some work to do in terms of connecting with my own oxygen mask. So, as Anita has said, I am an emotional intelligence coach, and I engage a lot with emotions. So, my first slide there shows that I with emotions as you see them on this emotional wheel. And these are the various emotions and the feelings that we know we can connect with, but those feelings are a root of a certain emotion. And as we speak today, I am very excited to be discussing this very important topic with you today. I'm going to speak with you about safeguarding your mental health, and by doing so, by being resilient. a topic suggests that something of yours is at risk and you need to do something to protect it. So clearly, that something is very important. That thing is your mental health. Our topic also gives us a clue that as to how then we can protect our mental health. That is by being resilient. So let's go on to our second slide there and appreciate what mental health is. Mental health is described as behaviors and functions that have to do with the mind and the brain. You see, as you go along with your life, we are around so much of stimulation. As we are being stimulated, we process information and we store this information in our brains. And mental wellness also speaks to mental health also speaks to the cognitive thinking patterns that we then develop as we store this information. Because when you see something, you classify it as bad, or when so-and-so behaves a certain way, then this is good. So all of those things are rooted in our programming, and that is the basis of the language of our minds. And it happens very quickly, these processes. And these processes are fueled by various hormones and neurotransmitters, really as if you would imagine an energy running into through an electronic circuit. Just as that electric circuit, those programs can also be interrupted. And when that interruption happens, that's when we start to experience mental wellness that is not good. That is when our mental health starts to deteriorate. And the interruption usually happens when our emotions get hijacked, or when we get triggered, or when we are subjected to high levels of stress. And chronic stress or prolonged stress results in mental issues, much like living in a very highly contaminated area can lead to having physical ailments, such as your lungs being contaminated. So if you're continuously stressed, you will suffer, unfortunately, from mental-related illnesses such as depression, as we most commonly have come to appreciate it. But to expand more on this one, let's have a look at this video and see how this puts it to perspective for us.
We all know that physical health is important and is something we need to look after so that we can stay fit and well. With mental health, it's the same. We all need to take care of our mind so that we can think and feel the way we want to and have a more enjoyable future. Mental health is about looking after our thoughts, feelings and emotions so that we are well enough to cope with everyday life and feel content with our relationships, our abilities and our potential. It can seem more difficult to look after our mental health than our physical health. And some people think you can never feel better if you have a mental health problem. But that's not true. If you have a physical health problem, like an injury or illness, it's possible to get better and feel well again. And it's the same with mental health. You just need to talk to the right people and ask for help. Sometimes the stresses of life can affect our mental health, and we don't feel we can contribute at work or in our community the way we want to. It's okay. Everyone can have a bad day or feel bad for much longer periods of time. There are lots of things about life and work that can affect our mental health. You may feel unwell because of stress at work, or maybe you're feeling low after losing someone you love. A traumatic event, a physical injury, or taking drugs can also affect your mental health. You might feel anxious or low, or just want to hide away. If you're having a bad day, Able Futures could help you get support to deal with the mental health problems that you're struggling with. We'll give you time with a mental health expert who will listen to what you're feeling and thinking, give you advice and information, and help you do what you need to do to feel better, so that you can have more good days. We can help you, your employees, or your apprentices understand and manage their mental health at work for a more dependable future. with no charge to you. Call us Monday to Friday on 0800 321 3137 between 8 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. or visit our website able-futures.co.uk.
Thank you very much for that. Now, maybe keep the previous slide there, please, if you may. Fortunately for us, we have a program that's programs that are offered in the education department, programs similar to the one that Renuka has spoken about. And today, I'm going to teach you what it is that you can do to safeguard your mental wellness. So as we have seen in the video, we need to make sure that we are sound in mind in order to continue functioning. And it is even more critical for you new teachers because the road ahead is uncertain. Think about it. So much has changed in the world. There is digital overload, information at our fingertips. Everything, if you're looking for something, you can just Google, you'll get the answer for it now. And there's social media. And in the context of South Africa, the landscape is not the same everywhere in terms of teaching. And we know the dynamics, our history. So all of these can really make us a little anxious. And today we are going to learn one of the best characteristics that we can acquire that will help us protect and safeguard our mental well-being. And that is by being resilient. Can we have the next slide, please?
We all know.
Thank you. So here we're going to find out why teachers need to be resilient. Well, to be resilient because you operate in a very stressful and uncertain environment. There are many deadlines, there are standards that you need to meet, and you literally, as a teacher, are holding the future leaders, the success of the future leaders right in your hands. So how you impact them every day really is going to pay off in the future. That is why teachers really need to be resilient. Resilience enables you to cope effectively with stressors, and you are able to bounce back from setbacks, and you're going to get many of them. Also, you need to be resilient so that you can handle your demanding workloads. We know the amount of work classrooms. We know dealing with various learners in the classroom. You need to be able to create a safe environment for each one to be themselves and allow each one to learn the way that they can, while also keeping up to the standards that you are required to adhere to as a teacher. Now, all of that sounds like it's juggling many balls. In the meantime, you too are an individual. You also have your own responsibilities. You also have your own feelings. You also have your own circumstances. All of that requires you to be resilient. You have to adapt to a lot of changes as a teacher. In education, the changes are, as I've already spoken, there's information at the fingertips. So we have to keep the pace and make sure that we are current. Now, that means you need to be quite agile. In order for you to be agile, you need to really be able to bounce back from setbacks. Because as the days go, as you continue from day to day, you are getting ups and downs. As the video shown, everybody's affected by death of loved ones. We have different other stressors, and COVID, the pandemic has dealt a serious blow to the world as we know it. So definitely I can speak on and on about what the challenges could be. And I'm sure you can think of many other challenges that you are already grappling with. You can already think of many challenges that you are thinking ahead that could happen. All of those require you to be resilient. And at the end of the day, you want to be able to provide emotional support for your students and your learners so that they can progress. You want to be able to inspire others. You want to inspire other teachers. You want to inspire the learners that they too can have a role model. And so in order for you to do that, let's see how resilience can pay off for you. Now, let's have a look at a very short video that's going to tell us about resilient individuals.
What is resilience? Resilience means you're able to withstand or recover from difficult situations in your life. It can help us deal with heartbreak, failure, and life stressors. When we build our resilience, we're able to better recover from hardships and setbacks in a more healthy way. Resilience might be something you're searching for, especially now, between dealing with a pandemic and trying to return to some semblance of normalcy. Staying resilient in these trying times is key in keeping up with your mental and physical health.
Thank you very much for that video. So now that we know what it will cost us not to be resilient, and now that we know how it will benefit us to be resilient, I think now it's time for us to act. Now we know our life depends on it. Mental well-being depends on us doing something about our mental health. Now, let's have a look at the next slide, where we're going to learn the 7 C's.
What is resilience?
Firstly, these are building blocks to being resilient, okay? So as you look at each component, reflect within and ask yourself, what of these can I already connect with? We start with what can I already connect with, meaning what do I already have? And you want to improve that muscle. If you can already identify with one and you know that you already have it, you have the capability, then you are on your way. Then the ones that you don't have so much, then you want to start acquiring that skill. So let's get into it. First of all, in order for you to build resilience, you want to think about your competence or your ability. As it stands, you have gone through the motions. You have gone to college or varsity and acquired your qualification to be a teacher. That is why you are where you are today. So you are competent. Now, this is important because sometimes setbacks can make you feel like you are not so good at what you're doing. This ability or skill that you need to reflect on is going to boost your confidence, which is the aspect here. Then your confidence is your surety about your abilities, your surety about your strengths. If you are very confident, very sure about your strengths, it's very difficult for anybody to shake you. Then the next C talks about coping. As you can see, we have an image of a comet really piercing through from onto Earth. So it relates an idea of pushing through and having the go spirit. So get up each time, fall fast, get up fast, and keep going. This is your power to overcome the struggles. Then the next C is your control. Knowing what you have control over and knowing what you do not have control over. This is very important because you will be able to pick your battles, literally. And you will know what to invest in and what not to. There is a space between stimulus and response. And this space is a precious space where you have the grand privilege of choosing the action that you want to take, choosing the behavior. And being aware of your emotions plays a very critical role here, because then you can control your outcome. You see, if when you are stimulated, you can spend time to observe the emotion and then choose the action based on the result that you would rather see, then that puts you so much more in control. Things like being courageous to raise issues respectfully when you're having challenges, and to engage others in the school and stuff like that. The next C talks about character. What is your fiber? Your set of morals and values. To be resilient, you want to have the character of somebody that's fluid, somebody that's adaptable, somebody that does not take offense very quickly, somebody that is empathetic, that puts and thinks of the next person and then thinks about how they can help them. And the next C in building resilience is connection. Knowing that you are not alone, knowing that you are not alone in how you are feeling, knowing that you are not alone in your challenges, in your struggles, and then reaching out to those connections and refusing to allow yourself to sink. You do not, whatever happens, want to allow yourself to sink. And lastly, we're looking at the C of contribution. Personal contribution is very important. We hear that there's much joy in giving than there is in receiving, 100%. And contributing makes it so much easier for you to have to ask for help when you need it. So there we go. We have our 7 C's that'll help us to build resilience. And in conclusion, teaching is a very rewarding but extremely challenging profession, and it demands serious resilience to navigate the complexities in the classroom, in your community, the education system itself, compliance, and the ever-evolving technology and other things that we know in our environment. Building and maintaining resilience not only safeguards your mental health and well-being, but it also impacts your learners' academic ability and their personal development. And that is it from me today. Anita?
Thank you very much, Sadie. And thank you for making that wonderful connect to the way in which Renuka just orientated us to become so aware of our social emotional learning and some of the tools that we can use to begin to draw on it and use it to then develop this resilience that you speak of. I think, and we really value both yourself and Renuka in terms of building on those 7 C's, one of, in the way in which you are helping us to be able to see how we contribute to each other's well-being, how we able to be, assisted to each other in terms of the way in which we can control our behaviors, respond to situations, in a mindful way, build our confidence, and most importantly, protect our mental and emotional well-being, which is so critical for the way in which we have to do our jobs. And I'm reminded of a quote that says, better 1,000 days, or nothing is better than one great day with the teacher as compared to 1,000 days with one that isn't. And thank you for helping our new teachers to begin to look at how they can become great every day with these tools that both of you have really tried to start to build with us. So thank you, colleagues, for that. We are now ready to go to our Q&A session so that we can, take some note of some of the comments or the questions that can then help us to have a little further discussion on the issues around resilience and well-being that's going to help us to become the best possible teachers that we can be. Thank you. So colleagues, we'll just wait to hear of any questions that we can start to begin discussion with. So for example, and Renuka, I'm not sure if you can come back onto camera at this point.
Hi, Anita, I'm there.
Lovely. Thank you so very much. And perhaps maybe to the both of you at this point, and to any of our other participants on the panel who might want to venture any of the responses. I mean, some of the questions, the generic questions that we do have, I'm going to just probably start with maybe two, and you can then either take turns to respond or you can help each other to respond. I mean, this is a general one where new teachers want to know, how do we handle stress inside and outside of the classroom? And a second question is, how do I manage to, or what is the most important thing for me? And what should I do in terms of finding balance between home and the workspace? So let's just starting with those two. So maybe Renuka, if you want to start, and then Sedi can take on from there. Thanks.
Yeah, lovely. So maybe I can respond to the first question, which is a lot about how do you manage stress inside and outside the classroom spaces. I think let's begin from a space of acknowledgement that stress and anxiety and those uncomfortable emotions are going to be part of the journey. And I think it's really important to start from that space. Secondly, I do feel that setting up some self-care mechanisms really helps. And I think different people, like my personal journey through working with many teachers across the world, has also indicated that these are going to be very different for everyone, right? Some of these things, some of these strategies and tools and practices that we talk about through many interventions might work for you at some point of the time and might not work for you at the other point of time, because the nature of challenge changes. So I think it's really important for one of the things that I often suggest is to have these pool of strategies. Start exploring these pool of bunch of these strategies and try creating a pool of things that work well for you, and try using them one by one. Try integrating them one practice at a time. Maybe focus on one practice for a week or for 2 weeks, and try using them as like a repository, right? I think that really helps. And I think one more thing that I really want to say is that as teachers, we often consider ourselves as superhuman beings. I mean, it's good to be that way, but let's also acknowledge that there are certain things which are beyond our horizon as well. And I think when you for me personally, it works when I'm able to say, okay, you know what, there are so many things that I want to do, but this problem is not something that I can work on right now with the tools that I have. So I'm going to let somebody else kind of take over. I think, again, just to understand that this is beyond my capacity and my ability for now, automatically helps you to kind of settle in and to manage that stress. And I think when I'm saying stress, it's not just generic to, not really applicable to teachers alone. I think that's also very human being, because we're individuals at the end of the day, which also kind of fits into the next question, right? Like personal and professional life navigation. So I think it's important for you to set those boundaries for yourself, both at your home as well as at your working space, and to find your own mechanisms of resilience and calming techniques that might be helpful. So I think that's how I'd like to respond to that, Anita. Thank you.
Thank you, Renuka. Sedi, over to you.
No, I couldn't have said it better myself, really. And just to remind everybody about that exercise that you did at the beginning of your presentation, the breathing exercise and centering yourself and bringing yourself towards yourself and grounding yourself. That is, it works all the time, every time. So if you remember, sometimes people would say, no, just breathe, just breathe. It's not just the statement, it is magical. What happens with our minds is, Renuka, you also spoke to the makeup of our neuro system. Our mind, if you were to think of yourself, your brain like this, almost like this, this is the frontal part of your brain, and this is where your panic button sits. This is the simplest way to put it. This is where your panic button sits, right here. And when you get triggered, this is your creativity. And when your lid is closed, you are present, you are creative, you can think, you can rationalize. The moment you get triggered or you are under a lot of stress, your lid starts to open and your flee, freeze, or fight mode starts to get exposed. And when that is exposed, that means you are under a lot of stress. Now, living in continuous stress means your lid is always open. And if your lid is always open, then are you ever going to be creative? Are you ever going to be innovative, resourceful? No, it's very little opportunity for you to be that. And that is why breathing, those breathing exercises, doing those mindfulness exercises is, I cannot over stress that. That is magic. Everybody has access to, if you can breathe, use your lungs, it switches back your creativity. And you can do the same even when you are struggling to be creative about how to balance your work and your personal life. 100% works all the time. It puts you back in being creative. And I like to use this model quite a lot. It's simple and effective.
Thank you, Sadie. I think when we're talking about resilience and well-being, inevitably we somehow seem to be sort of influenced by all that is negative or heavy and overwhelming. A question that we have here is how can I use, or how can I start each day with looking for something positive to motivate me? How would you advise there, Sedi? And we'll come to Renuka. What are some of the things we need to look for and draw on to have a positive start to a day?
It takes conscious effort for a person to find something positive. So I would suggest that you put it as something that you have to do. And it becomes even more difficult for you to find something positive to look forward to if your circumstances are very difficult. Some of the things that we can take for granted are the gift of life, appreciating the job, appreciating the people around you, and challenging yourself to really looking at those things that I have listed perhaps and finding something good in them, and maybe expanding and saying, if I wasn't alive, my family would not have 1, 2, 3, whatever it is that I give to my family. If I didn't have my job, I wouldn't be able to do X, Y, Z. And that forces you to think and find the good in every, even though your instances are difficult. Now, when it gets even more difficult, it becomes even more difficult for you to find the good. But if you make it a habit, it starts being something that you practice, and then eventually it becomes part of who you are. You become a grateful person and we can spread that, because that too is contagious.
Thank you. And I love the idea, or rather the reminder of gratitude, and how it too can drive us in terms of all of the positive affirmations, but also, I mean, a simple thing like breathing and what oxygen does for the brain, and how it actually helps us to be able to control how we respond to something or not. So Renuka, what is your wisdom here?
Anita, a lot of it is actually aligned to what Seri was saying. I think I'm going to share something from my own personal practice, because I think Seri has spoken about that. But gratitude, I mean, a lot of work has indicated that just starting your day with being grateful and listing out 3 things that I'm grateful for, right? And it could be the gift of life, the fact that I'm still functioning. There are days when I get up and I'm like, you know what? I had a sore body pain and my entire body was sore yesterday. Today I'm actually getting up with one less bruise on my back. So just starting my day with that, I think that's been part of my transformation journey, especially like feeling motivated to go to work every day, travel long distances, which are some of the challenges that I experience. And I think there's something that we tell a lot of our teachers as well, that, because there's also a sense of monotony, and it might just get difficult to kind of push yourself out and get into the same sense of habit. We do encourage people to do a simple gratitude exercise, and even closing the day with gratitude, because when you kind of go back and reflect on your day, that's when you actually realize that there were so many other great things that happened to me. And therefore, if you also remember the first exercise that we did, it was a lot of breathing, but it was also about finding that moment of joy. So it's almost like saying that what's something that you are kind of grateful for, right? And it can be very simple things as well. So I do feel that definitely going back to gratitude and also affirmations, which you kind of shared today, right? Listening to a lot of these YouTube, and I'm sure there are many other applications which are accessible, which will give you these free access to simple affirmations, right? And those are powerful too. Just spend the first 5 minutes not opening up and looking at your WhatsApp and emails at the screen, but just like with yourself, minus a lot of distractions. I think that's a way forward. But of course, let's also recognize that we are in different states of our life, and not everything might just work magically. So our mental healths are at different levels. So our interventions will also need to look very differently.
Thank you, Renuka. That was lovely. Colleagues, we have a question which asks us, and this is obviously from one of our participants, who asked the question: how do newly qualified teachers set boundaries with their mentors? So maybe Sedi, you can offer some advice there on boundaries.
So if I'm hearing the question correctly, it says the teacher is being mentored, and the new teacher is being mentored, and they want to set boundaries with that person. So they are the mentee. Everything works in agreement. Let's agree up front. It is safe. It makes the relationship easier. So have the courage to say to your mentor, may I please agree on certain things? Your mentor knows what they already have contracted to do with you. They're going to teach you, they're literally going to teach you the ropes. But then you know yourself, you know your circumstances, and perhaps a good way to start would be, may I start at step 1 and 2, and then after 2 weeks, then we come back and I tell you how I'm doing. The boundaries to set can be, are you okay if I call you when I'm not feeling all right? So being vulnerable is one of the things that will definitely work for you, allowing yourself to do that. But it also depends on the nature of the relationship that you have. So you really need to do your best to be authentic, so that your mentor can trust you and they can allow you then to be vulnerable and That way you can say to them anything with respect, but boundaries are extremely important because then everybody knows what the next person wants and what the next person will not allow.
Thank you, Sedi. Maybe Renuka, if you just want to add a last thought to that, because then we're going to going into our roundup now.
Anita, I think Sedi has beautifully captured that. I think we're good to go.
Thank you both. And colleagues, I think also just maybe to add to that, the fact that our mentees are full-time new teachers. So their work scope is, defined by a job description and a demand of the day and the week. And mentees too need to be reminded, of the remit of the work of a new teacher, and that it doesn't also become offloading of extra work or duties, because then that too starts to complicate the emotional, and psychological well-being of a new teacher whilst trying to cope with their own work. But I think thank you for that question, because we'll obviously also extend it into our own engagements, through our NTI program, and as we continue to prepare mentors and mentees for their work and their roles. So thank you, colleagues. Thank you again, Renuka and Sedi, for this wonderful insights. And I think you've really set a lovely foundation for us to build on, so that we can begin to develop and grow these areas, and even perhaps start to look at dedicated focuses, on mindfulness and coping better, and more on the oxygen mask, just so that we can build this resilience and this well-being that we need for everybody who's new, because we want them to love their jobs, and we want them to be able to do the best they can, and we want to be able to help and support them in doing that. And to our new teachers who've joined, thank you so very much for your participation, for listening, for the questions, and we look forward to seeing you again in our future webinars. So please keep your eyes peeled there. I see we have a hand from Ms. Margie, who's our director for the new initial teacher education program. Over to you, Ms. Margie.
Thank you, colleagues. Thank you to our teachers that have joined us. I just wanted to indicate to our teachers that I hope that they have registered with our new teacher induction course material, because it is going to help you in terms of some of the questions that I have seen coming on the charts. Classroom management, pedagogy, issues around mental health. That course is going to help you. But also, if you can alert your mentor teachers to also join and attend to the course on mentors, because that course helps in terms of what to prepare in your first engagement. Because in your first engagement, that is where you lay the rules, that is where you set the boundaries yourself as well as the mentor, so that you know the rules of engagement from the first meeting. And therefore, that should be able to set the boundaries that you are looking for, but also help you to know when you need the support of the mentor. What are the things that you need to tell him or her, and what are the things that you expect the mentor to give to yourself. But I also wanted to indicate that attending these webinars, you are receiving the CPTD points for SAYS. So please ensure that you submit that register that you are going to find from the Pulse. And thank you so much for attending. Looking forward to you attending the next webinars. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Margie, and thank you, colleagues. Again, I think we're coming towards a wrap for this afternoon's inaugural webinar. And I think we're delighted by the opportunity that it's giving us now to build on this wonderful safe space for our new teachers to begin to raise issues. And also feel free to also let us know about the types of issues that you'd like us to also, spend some time on in future webinars. So colleagues, again, a reminder that when the webinar ends, there will be a link to a survey that you'll complete that is for SACE and for your CPTD points. And yes, please do complete that so that at least you already have some intrinsic reward for participating in this afternoon session. So again, a very, very big thank you, everybody. A good start for us, and wishing you well for the rest of the day and for the evening, Renuka. And we really, really appreciate both your and Sedi's expertise and empathy with all it is that new teachers experience, in a very overwhelming yet rewarding environment that they help to keep together and to thrive in every day.
Right.
So colleagues, please, we wish you well in your continued work as a new teacher. And please know that you have the support of ourselves through these kinds of forums. So thank you very much, colleagues, and a very good afternoon to all of you until we see you in our next webinar. So thank you and good afternoon. Bye.